Yeah. So, you know, I don't hold that against you.
Welcome all to the occupancy tax meeting, November 29, 2023. Need a motion to approve the minutes of previous meeting?
We don't have them yet.
Oh, we don't have
And
any
if
yet.
we might have them.
Okay,
We didn't have them here.
all right. How about privilege to the floor? Anybody has anything to say before we start? All right. Action agenda. I will turn it over to you. Yeah.
Excellent, and I will turn it over to Gina,
Do I need to be here?
if you wouldn't mind.
Yes. So, when we had first began conversations with Heather and, how the CVB is actually an extension of Warren County Tourism, we walked through where we were in our spending and advertising and goals for the year for this past year and where we were going. So a big piece of what we did in this past year was taking on the group tour business. And so we diverted monies to that sector, if you will, of the market. And with that, as we move forward, we were asking for an increase because of how we displaced other marketing, advertising, trade show line items in the 2023 budget so that we could focus on group tour. So as we come into 2024, we've added back in those places that are those market segments that we displaced so that we could focus on that bus tour business or getting it back re-energized, so to speak. So what you've got here in front of you is a 3-year budget so that we could look at a multi-year contract in some way, shape, or form. So that first year was the increase of $50,000 so that we could continue where we had begun this year or what we added. And then the subsequent years, right now, it's just at 3.5% for each year. So there'd be some form of, natural increases, whether it's from manpower to normal increases that happen from an advertising standpoint, from a trade show perspective, or just increases. So that's where 25 and 26 go. But what I also had included were where we want to go in terms of the business. So one page that's also included here is the sales goals for each year. And then also how we look at our targeted markets in terms of the business that we're going after to fill not only our hotel rooms, but our venue space. So, so as we look, it's not just a budget, it's also what are the goals and why is it divided up a certain way? So for instance, on page 3 of this, as you look down, the budget allocation, we look at 40% that we're going after is for that corporate association market, because we have a lot of space to fill midweek and it's year round versus, if you look at sports, that's definitely weekend business. There's only 52 weekends. And even that is not, you can't fill every weekend. And then if you look at weddings, it's 20% of how we're looking vertically at our budget. And weddings, the market that we go after is within a 3.5-hour radius of what those brides and or wedding planners, where they are within the Northeast. And that's weekend business as well. And then group tour business is weekly. A lot of them do not come on the weekends. Some come through, but it's seasonal. It's a lot of our shoulder seasons. It's leaf peeping, and then it's, spring and fall. We don't necessarily see as many in the summer here as other destinations do. And then the last piece was festivals. We've had a lot of push to do more with what Bob Blaze is doing for Festival Commons, and as other places, whether it's, city park festivals and other things around the county. So that's why that's only at 2.5%. But again, that's weekends and seasonal. I bring that up because it's important for everybody to understand why we're doing the things that we're doing based on what are the need times, what are the venues that are available, what are the assets within our county that are available. So now going back to the budget for 2024. So when we looked at trade shows this past year, we began in that whole bus tour market. We added to where we were already going from an association and corporate, from, what we're doing in the wedding market, for what we're doing in, to cover the sports market. What we added for this year was to go to a festivals event where we can meet other event festival producers. And we also added the IPW, which that's part of the international market that Heather we become an extension of that. And a piece of that, just so you understand, I also gave you this profile of Japanese visitors. So as Heather has identified some things on the international market, the state has identified things on the international market. This is the year where we begin talking to group tour operators at IPW, because in 2025, Ishiru Suzuki, a very well-known Yankee baseball player, is probably 99% going to get inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. And he is the prime minister in his own way of the whole country of Japan. And so everybody is already gearing up for that. We've already begun a statewide mission, if you will, with an international tour operator that would be that receptive to the people that would come. And they're looking at that as a 5-year growth of Japanese visitors to New York State that would begin. But a lot of that marketing will begin in 2024 to be ready for 2025 for that induction. Now, we won't see those Japanese folks on that induction weekend, but it'll be all of those travelers subsequently after that. And they're already looking at itineraries. So I wanted you to see that, because those are pieces that have already begun from a statewide, we're all in it to win it, so to speak. Moving along, and some of that advertising and marketing feeds into that. Again, going back to that bus tour market, this year from ABA, within not even 6 months of this year, we'd already booked 10 new group tours to come to the market, and some with repeat business. So they might come in June and then come in the September and then come the following April. So of how we book them. We revamped this year our paid social media, and some of that, especially working with Warren County Tourism Department, was to really look at what are the keywords we're using from a meeting perspective, and what is Warren County Tourism using from a leisure market perspective. Heather, chime in at any time if I'm overstepping those, some of the things that we talked about. Sponsorships, this is where, we have not actually gone out and bought a complete piece of business, but we have some business that's out there that we might need to buy for a particular weekend to fill a need time. Like, we know that second weekend of September, we need to put something here because we still have employees that are here, before the J1s leave. And, we know that our college kids have gone back, but that would be a prime weekend where we see a huge dip, and we can see it in all of our research. We know that. And that's where we've got to place a pickleball tournament. We've been trying to find the right that producer to do that and buy that piece of business to bring here. So, because you've got car show that fills everything. And then a few weeks later, we've got balloon festival. And then we've got this lull where people are here, but they're not like here in mass. And we need somebody of that age that doesn't have kids between the ages of 8 and 18, because they're just back in school and they're not traveling. They're back in sports and they're doing all the things with regard to school. So it is, whatever we do, it's really focused on that empty nester or somebody a little older. We've been growing our corporate attendance. That's been a big deal to bring those corporate groups here. And we're seeing that they've come back, and like our last Q3 report, you could tell it was a lot of corporate business that was booked in that time frame, because it was almost like 1-to-1, one person per one overnight room. Versus if you're booking other group business, typically you might have seen like 3 people. If it's a sporting event, you see almost 3 people per overnight room, if that makes sense, like in a bigger scheme of that kind of business. But if you're coming for a corporate retreat, you're not coming necessarily with your family. You're coming with your corporation, or if you're here for an association meeting, you're not coming with 3 other people of your family. You're typically coming for your meeting, and so you see that 1-to-1. So we have focused on that. Some other pieces here. You'll learn more about Simple View as Warren County Tourism takes that on with regard to how you're gonna train your staff on how to use that CRM and then take it for the next level for the website. But there's always ongoing training for that. We'll be doing some of that together just because of what we've learned over the last 5 years of having Simple View as a CRM. We do ongoing training with staff, even internally on our staff meetings, like, okay, let's talk about whatever it is that affects everyone. Some DEI initiatives, and that also comes down to one of the things that we had talked about, we've had on the docket here since the DRI award for Glens Falls. We really need some sort of an information kiosk somewhere. We've been keeping a placeholder of dollars for the CVB. Just because, there's the Welcome Center is a great information center that gets people to Warren County. The village has an information center. Our office is an information center. I know that there used to be lots of brochures here, but the average person is not coming into a county building on the weekend. So that would be something for us to identify as even if it's a standing kiosk that has brochure information somewhere in downtown Glens Falls. So working with everyone there to identify that spot. I know that at one point there was brochures and what was allowed in the shirt factory and maybe some at the Cool Insuring Arena, but not necessarily something that you could go on any given day of the week. So that was something that's still in our placeholder for under our community development as well as training. We talk a lot about under Simple View, you'll also see the economic impact. So we buy this calculator where we can run a report on anything. And Lisa Grant would send us a lot of the occupancy tax applications and we would run them through the calculator. So it was not only what was the return on that investment, but you could see the taxes that were collected or will be collected on that event, or the impact of the jobs that are sustained and all of those pieces that go into that economic impact. Economic and employee impact. And so we will buy that integration so that every single piece of business is not just a linear equation of what that economic impact is. We can actually print something off that says, okay, whether it's, a $12,000 little quilting group that, their economic impact is to somebody who's, Americaid and everything in between. And we do get asked that a lot. The folk school has used that economic impact calculator to get grants. The music festival, we ran that. We ran some things for the Thunder, to the value of a hockey game and then what a season is for the monies that they bring into the market. So we've used that tool for a variety of partners throughout the county to either help them, show their benefit or help them, get grants or whatever it is. So people have really been, we have been using that tool for other reasons. Research has been a big thing, a big piece as we've grown, whether it's the sharing of data internally in this room or among our partners, or how we're going after certain marketing to certain markets. It's really crunching the numbers of data over and over again. So you see that under research. And what we learned was things that can't be shared from the county, we need to buy so that because then we can share them with partners outside of this room. Because there are certain limitations in the contracts that you have for the data that you get. So, and we understand that. And then anything personnel wise was all with regard to minor 3%. Where we have seen increases has all been in healthcare costs. That's the big increase there. So that was that with regard to 2024, where some new dollars were placed. And then as we looked at, where would those rooms, come from or go to? again, it would be, a minimal, so if you crunched $50,000, and just looked at what was, you need a minimum of 8,000 room nights to get, for what that comes in occupancy tax. That's not really even thinking about the fact that those same 8,000 rooms, what is the real value of sales tax that comes with that? Keeping people employed and all of those other pieces of that have indirect, impacts right here at home. So that's also, we're thinking of that as well. So when I looked at, realistically, the manpower that we have and what we're doing, we believe that a minimum of 4,000 room night, and what were the markets where we could increase that based on what have we got in the funnel already, what's pending, markets that we're going after, growing. We know that we have to put some money into whether it's that international group tour market or to buy a piece of business, and what will that net us, not only from a room night perspective, but also from a marketing perspective, brand awareness, destination awareness, and to keep us out in front in the Northeast. I mean, we're still a Northeast market. It's not like we're going after Vegas, or something out West. We're still, that drive-in market is really, where we're drawing to for everything that we do. We have opportunities still also in the wedding market. What we've seen is that certain properties have now said, you know what, I'd rather have my restaurant closed for that weekend and have a buyout. Just because of staffing. We've had a few already do that this year and learned that was, I'm just thinking the Boathouse came to mind, or the Lodge at Echo Lake, believe it or not, in Warrensburg, they're doing a lot more wedding business there. In addition to their other summer camp business. And that on that. And then I mentioned, the budget allocation per target audience. I wanted you to see that and how that, what that means, whether, where we're drawing from or to or how, or so that was on here. And the last piece, I know there was some questions about shared services. And so there's a piece here that shows every piece of shared services. So for instance, Simple View. The CVB does not pay for all of that. They pay for a piece of it because it's a license and we use it. We manage everybody in the destination from a member partner side. So the chamber piece pays a piece of that, and the welcome center, because we're also able to cross merchandise, if you will, or cross with vendors that are at the welcome center. So everybody has a piece of that. And then each entity, if you will, has a seat or multiple seats. So we pay for those multiple seats. So that's how that's a shared service. Later.com is a social media platform of scheduling. So here, Warren County Tourism, you might use a scheduling. I don't know if you use HubSpot or nope. Okay. To go across all platforms, but where basically in that social media world, you have a scheduling where you can put in the information and tell Facebook, this is going to go on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. And Pinterest, it's going to be here, and Instagram, it's going to go at this day. And we're able to use that because we have different handles for Meet Lake George, for Lake George Chamber, and for the Welcome Center. So that's another a platform that's a shared service. So if you bought it, let's say for just one entity, just yourself, you might spend $30 a month versus it being divided across 3 entities for the same $30. And then there are, as you go, you can see here how each one is divided up, and or things that the chamber does that is already paying for, but yet the CVB and or the Welcome Center is like, we buy regular advertising on local. We have not trades, but between LakeGeorge.com or Lake George Radio or all of Albany or Adirondack Broadcasting, all across their radio stations. So we do weekly commercials, and usually it's either, we could be one commercial for the CVB might be asking for volunteers for the World Games that we had up at Gore, or it might be welcoming a group that's coming to town because we know that they're staying in multiple places. So that's how we've used that radio locally on that. Looking down, another big piece has been CrowdRiff. CrowdRiff is a photo gallery where if you are on your phone and you take a picture of something and you post it on social media and you've mentioned Lake George in any way, shape, or form, it crowdsources that photography, and we can send you a note and ask you for the rights to use that, is one way. The second way is that we have locally, we've all taken pictures everywhere. We've asked you to upload them, and we ask you for the rights for those. And then our partners can use them because we have the rights to use them, whether you are the media or you are the surf side. They needed pictures of beaches in addition to their own to talk about Lake George and the value of beaches that people wanted to see while they were here or enjoy. So we have, like right now, we're using that tool for everything winter. So if you are a hotel or a restaurant and you want to talk about winter, there's photography already there for you. You don't have to reinvent the wheel of and you have the rights to use it. That's the big deal, is actually having the rights, and where you won't get sued for just picking a photo off of the internet from somewhere. So that's been a big deal. And we also use that specifically for the media. We've been able to create, anytime there's a press release with a variety of photos, we have a link where media sign in and you get all the photos that they need from our destination. So it's very user friendly there. Bandwango has also been a piece that that is a platform. So if you, in lieu of, let's say, a coupon book or something like that, that is a platform that is shared again by both the chamber and the CVB. The CVB has a passport. So every group that comes here, it's called Show Your Badge. So that we make sure that they have a postcard. Everybody knows that they have access to, whether it's discounts or just to know that this restaurant exists, whether it's for the outlets or restaurants in Glens Falls to Stony Creek Tavern, the inn, for dining out. So show your badge. And then we also have it as the Adirondack Craft Beverage Trail. That's how the chamber uses it. And for this winter, we're using it for everyone for Winter's Realm and Winter's Dream, and everything happening with the collaborative. So there's hotel discounts, restaurant information, attraction information that's open. And so that's already, people are already able to use that passport. So that I don't know, spent 3 months working on that already this year. So that was a platform that gets shared. If either entity had to buy that, it'd be about 14 grand on their own. So that's how we're sharing those costs across various entities. Last night on a call there's a group, the DEI and B group, Partnership for Community Belonging, where there's people from all across our county are involved in that. It's led by Chris Duffy, Dr. Duffy, and we want to have some form of a cultural piece for folks that either are looking to move here, and we talked all about what could be a tool that people could use, and that would be one platform that we would consider using that passport for, where you could find, whether it's not necessarily about your Middle Eastern dining, but you might need to know certain human services or certain things that culturally you might need to know based on your own ethnicity. And so we talked about how we could use that tool. We don't know if that's if that's the end game, but it's something that's already somebody has in the market that could be used versus any one person's website. So so that was just I didn't go through every single one, but I know that there was questions about that. And I really wanted to be able to delineate that, to understand that it's a cost savings for everybody, not just one entity or another in any way, shape, or form. So I've talked a lot, so I'm sure there's questions.
Well, I applaud you for the speech and the letting us know what's going on. I'm only speaking for myself.
Mhm.
We've been preaching for the last 3 months for everybody to keep their budgets flat on OpTax. And the ones we've had a couple of weeks ago, they were right on target below or right on target of what they had the last year. And you have a budget here now showing, $50,000 increase. And there's no way we can trim that at all, I guess, the way you're talking. And I've been looking at the statistics here from 2015 to 2019. Your budget went up 146% in monies. And from 2021 to 23, it went up 36%. So I'm just trying to find if we can come up with a reason. And I saw your budget over here for 2023 was $8,000 over spent from last year's budget. And there's no way we can keep that flat, give you the 8,000, give you 600. Instead of the 50, give you 8, 10. I mean, to keep it, what we're trying to ask everybody to do, to be careful coming up. Now, if this new project going on at the fort and Ice Castle, we should see by February, March, hopefully a substantial amount of money on sales tax and op tax, which we can look at things different next year. And that's just me speaking. I just feel because we've been preaching, trying to keep it flat. And then a 3-year contract is hard to keep it flat. So that's my thing. Kevin?
Yeah, just on your budget, Gina, sponsorships, you went from 10 up to 50,000. What does that entail?
Well, it was, so
I
for
heard what you're
instance.
saying, trying to buy a piece of business.
Yeah, so if there was a piece of business, which we're trying to figure that out, it could be there's a ski event, they need that initial seed money different than them coming to the county for occupancy tax. So if they're, people have come here, they've been getting 50 or 35 or something like that. Whereas if we can do something that it's 20 grand and it comes out of this budget, and then we service it all and we get them so that they're not coming back, that our goal would be that it's a one-time, they get here, this destination works for them. And we might have bought them from another destination to bring them here.
And then on a community development portion of it, you go from 29 down to 9.
Well, here's what happened. When we had the 29, that's when we had originally, we thought we could do something with the whole kiosk. And then we didn't. And those monies, they were still in that line item, but we're able to move that money around. So we came down on that. And so like this past year of that, we really only did training. We didn't spend it for a kiosk.
For my 2 cents,
Yep. Mhm.
we have put enormous amount of money into Lake George this year. I mean, I'm conservative, but to go in and we put over $3 million into a project in Lake George. And, we're trusting the Lake George business community to make that work. And I'm sure they will, knowing the people who, but that's a big investment we've made in Lake George. And I know that puts extra burden on the CVB, all your, behind the scenes work to make sure that you get the people in to make that work. But I would rather see a flat budget for 1 year until we can see the results of that big investment we made into the village. And that's my take I'm a very conservative person. We worked with the Glens Falls Civic Center Coalition. Every time we've worked with those folks, we've seen a big return. We've got the return on the investment. Every time we make an investment with the coalition board, it pans out for us. Now, the recent one was where we gave them money to do Heritage Hall. We're going to go down and look at the fruits of the work that they do there. I would rather see the CVB pause for 1 year and take the same amount of money for 1 year. I mean, we could start to see the results of all that investment of $3 million because sales tax is flat. It's not picking up right now and occupancy tax, we hope we see the shift, but we don't know yet. And that's the way I would look at this for 1 year, because of the $3 million we basically put in the Lake George Village. And all those businesses and the business people up there that hopefully it won't fail. And I don't think they ever went into there looking for failure, but it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money they've invested, a lot of money we have invested. I think we need to put a little pause on raising budgets or doing anything, at least for 1 year. That's just my take, and I don't have a vote on this, only at the full board, but that's what I would do, because, if you'd asked me 3 or 4 years ago, if I would have ever seen $3 million go into the village, for one event, I would say, wow, that's a lot. So that's just my take. I'm not on the committee, but.
Yeah, I'm working with the committee right now, so I'll get your question. Mr. Diamond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's been a lot said about, the monies that the county has appropriated over the last few years, specifically the significant amount of money that we've appropriated to Lake George for the Winter Festival. I could support today a resolution that we hold the expense side at the 2023 level with a 1-year contract. That's where I'm coming from today. I think we need to take an analysis or evaluate the performance of this festival that's coming, where we were promised that we get our $3 million investment back, but over time, we'll figure that out. So I'm not comfortable with raising this appropriation up this year or extending it to a 3-year agreement. So that's where I stand.
Mr. Wild, you had your hand up?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. You guys all know that I'm into numbers and the metrics and performance. And I'm looking at the page that you gave us, Gina, the budget allocation, sales goals, and the reach. And I look back and I see what the 2023 goal was versus the actual at the beginning of this month. And the economic impact is down probably over 40%.
It has a lot to do with the fact that when we set a goal, we had thought that groups were coming back with more people, because economic impact is also the number of people per room night. So as we crunched our numbers, really, it's really been about a 1.1 per person per room night versus a 1.9 or 2.5. If you look back at like 2019, groups that came here, and you could talk to somebody who works in a hotel or somebody who works in a restaurant. If a group came as a group before, they were coming at 2 or 3 people or up to 4 people in a room, and now they're not. There's 2 people. It's not, the full 10 people in a family or in their groups. So that's where we've seen the biggest is the number of bodies. So that directly is impacted from what we booked.
So if I dig in a little deeper,
Yep.
let's say
Mhm.
this year you might bring in an economic impact on the high end of $30 million, considering you're at 23.3 at the beginning of this month.
Right. So right now, yeah, because it doesn't include the fourth quarter.
Right.
Right. So I would say it would be
10%.
closer, probably be closer to, it'll just be shy of the 30.
Okay, so my math may be wrong, but I'm thinking maybe 40% of that is hotel occupancy tax viable. And
Yes.
if that's the case, this year, the CVB will return about 480,000 in occupancy tax.
Yeah, I'd have to crunch that as
That
well.
would be 4% of 12 million. And 12 million would be the 40% of the 30 million.
Yeah, I think it also depends so when we also look at this, I do an average of room rates, because if you book a sports group, they might spend a little bit more on their overnight rooms than if you book a Smurf group, or if you book if a wedding comes here or a corporate group, they spend more money than somebody who comes in June. Do you know what I mean? So we do an average of probably about 169. We look at that as an average rate across the board.
So the goal is to bring in, the goal is to bring in 32,000 people.
Right.
It's at the beginning of this month, the end of October, it was 17,005. So it's, it's again,
Yeah.
that's a significant drop. So, and I'm looking at return on investment, and I don't see it this year, right, in terms of our occupancy tax numbers. So, and it's complicated because I also talked about it in years past about the potential conflict between the CVB and the Lake George Chamber. Right? I know we're focused on Lake George. It's, of course, that's what we do, but to me, it's supposed to be a county-wide type of event. And I know we've talked about the potential of separating these two groups to have more accountability in terms of where we're going with our investment and the return on our investment. So I'm conflicted. I'm definitely not in favor of increasing the budget. And to be honest, I need more information before I can even say that we're going to keep it standing the way it is. And I've talked, Gina, we've asked before about, the metrics. And
We provide them.
this is really high level. It doesn't allow me to get deep into it to truly understand what, is my number right, that you're only returning 480,000 out of 600,000. So we're down 120,000 in terms of return to occupancy tax. And we do this occupancy tax, hopefully, when we spend occ tax, we hope to get even more back. Right? This one, we're going negative. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's where we are this year. And I'm not sure which way to go now.
So in your mind, there's two things that come to mind. One, everyone has talked about everything that we do is in Lake George, which is not true. Right out of the gate, I can probably enumerate 12 pieces of business that went to whether it be Six Flags Lodge, to Queensberry Hotel, to Sagamore, to, a variety of places around the county. We're not just Lake George centric, just in all honesty, because some of our bigger locations are not necessarily in Lake George. In terms of having that meeting and event space. From a sports venue spot, you've got everything from Golden Goal, which is really over the border into Fort Ann, to things at Gore, to, around the county there. It's not necessarily all Lake George centric. So I just wanted to be clear about that. And I respect everything that you're saying about the investment in Winterfest. Again, when the leisure traveler comes here and fills those rooms, they go everywhere. And part of our goal is to market to them while they're here to say, now you should come back with your team or your meeting or your event, a different kind of event when you're here as a leisure traveler. And on the flip side, when we're also marketing to them as they come here as a group, we're also asking them to come back as a leisure traveler. So we're getting them to come back at another time. Just like people say, Americade, there's a major event here, but if you look any major weekend throughout the rest of the summer and fall seasons, you'll see all kinds of groups of cyclists that come here, of motorcyclists. So it's not just that one time that they're here for that event, but I respect what you're saying with regard to, it wasn't returning in your mind dollar for dollar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for now.
Do you have anything, Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, I support the chair's recommendation for a flat for 2024, but I would and could support the increase in the salary line. I think that is reasonable. There's certainly a lot of work that takes place, whether the return on that, but certainly the folks are doing their part in that office, so I could support that.
Right,
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind.
go ahead.
Gina, you also mentioned about the shared services, but it looks like shared services just between the CBB and the chamber entities
And the Welcome Center.
and the Welcome Center.
Yeah. And everybody has their own budget, if you will.
And we don't talk about the shared services and how we work together with Heather and her team.
Well, you were looking at this from an expense standpoint, so that's how I,
That's part of it.
yeah, so there's certain thing, I mean, there's access to anything that we have. I mean, it's not like you can log in and have your signatures using Wise Stamp, you know, from a, you know, when I don't know that if you used later.com. We're sharing information through Zartico. Heather and I, we walked through that recently to say, oh, this should be changed, and which we did do at her recommendation, a couple things that came up for that. So I'm not really sure what services we could share with regard to information, or, you know, we said we'd be able to pull everything out of our CRM when they're ready to upload for Simple View, so that they wouldn't have to do some of that legwork that's already been done because things are all updated in our CRM.
Can add to that, Mike. There are some things that could come up in the future. We haven't gotten that deep
Okay.
yet, just to be fair.
We'll get to work.
I know.
Right?
And we've anecdotally, and I mean just conversationally, should I say, have spoken about opportunities like that, and Simple View is one of the first ones that have come up. But we haven't gotten.
All right, would you like a chance?
Um,
Go to the mic so it gets recorded.
Jerry Thornbush, Lake George RV Park General Manager. So I sit on the board of the chamber as well, CVB. Just a few things to address. I know Kevin and Mike, we sat in a room probably a year and a half ago, talked about the sharing of the information. You wanted us to dumb down the reports every month. We do that. We send the reports for you to read every month on that. I think we've been honoring that, you know, through over a month through reports, and we said at the time, please let us know if these are not the correct reports. Understand them if you want us to do something else with them. So I know we made the effort to do that when we did meet. I'd like to just briefly say, I know the focus, you gave $3 million to Lake George for the winter. That I totally get that. We're closed, the RV park. We don't benefit from any of that. A lot of the businesses are closed and don't benefit. Please don't penalize the rest of the year or the seasonal businesses because you gave a large amount. I know a lot of it was from surplus that you had to Lake George. We need the marketing. We need the heads and beds. We certainly need, in my business, we don't do any group business. We do all leisure travel. We need the leisure traveler. So I get that that's always on everybody's mind. That's a large chunk of money that was given and asked for, but that does, you know, it does a great deal for what bed tax was originally designed for, to get more to a year-round economy. I get that, but we do need this marketing, and we do need this group influx of people on a year-round basis, and we certainly need them from April through November. And that's a large part of this. And I also just want to say that I know you want to keep budgets the same and all that, but everything we do comes back through the CVB. So you're spending more money and you're getting more back. CVB is a pure play on tourism. It's totally in line in what the original bed tax was designed for. I have nothing against the Civic Center Coalition or anything like that. I don't know what their calculation is on heads and beds and whether you're getting the full 4% back on the money you give that. I don't know. I know the Queensbury does well with those. I know some of the other properties at Exit 18 probably does very well at the Civic Center, but you have to apply the same statistic to everybody equally, I think, who's getting bed tax and heads and beds and what it was originally designed for. So I feel that it's certainly reasonable to increase for this year, the 50,000, and to have the supplemental increases because our expenses do go up every year. Just like yours does. I mean, you're paying more for payroll just like everybody else is. So For that, we did talk, Kevin, a year and a half ago about a 3-year contract. You know, we've been working for this for a long time. We need to give our staff and our people and our tourism businesses an idea that we're going to be around. We're booking business for 25 and 26. We should have the same, at least, you know, feel is like, say, the Civic Center, they get a 3-year contract. Why can we not get a 3-year contract? I guess is my question. Do you have a little faith in us of what we've done? That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
It's tough to make comments. You know, I have some comments I'd love to make, but it's tough to make them and get hard feelings, and that's not what we're here for. We're here just to make the job happen and the people who come to our county. And I'm not picking on you personally, but you own a campground.
Right.
You do not collect occupancy tax.
Because if we do, though, we have 26 rental units. We
Well,
pay
but
occupancy.
most of your campground doesn't, all campgrounds around here, not just you. So they take advantage of our advertising, your advertising to bring people in. So it's and it's funny because the state doesn't even charge sales tax on short-term rentals. And it's so ridiculous because we got $1 million in occupancy tax from short-term rentals last year. The state could have got $1 million plus because they get the 4%, we only get 3%. So I don't understand why some of these things are happening, but the goal of this, myself and this group, this comes to a point, and I'll use a phrase, and I know people get mad at me, time when it's enough is enough. And we have to slow down and let some other adventures pick up the speed and see what happens. It's just, if you sat here today earlier and some of the expenses at the jail and health cases and insurance, it's the money that people are asking for. It's just, you know, we're responsible for it. We're responsible to taxpayers. And around Warren County, even my little town, Lake Luzerne, they're gonna see their taxes go up this year, first time in 5 years, but it has to happen. So there's gotta be reasons why we all gotta back away from spending more in other places to help cover and keep everything flat. And that's the only reason I say, maybe, and I kind of agree with Mr. Diamond, you know, go 1 year, get a little bit, but to go 50,000 and then guarantee more for the following year, more for the following year, it's tough right now for us to do that. So that's only my opinion. So, yes.
So there appears to be consensus from the committee for a 1-year flat. I'd like to make a motion to that effect, but as I mentioned, I would ask for considerations for the salary increase, which I believe comes to $11,710. So it would be for a 1-year contract for $611,710.
How much you looking to increase it?
The total for next year would be $611,710.
Mr. Diamond?
Chairman, thank you. I'd like to question that. The increase in salary or personnel is $11,000. I still feel that we need to stay at $600,000 and ask the CVB to find the $11,000 increase that is in this resolution within their budget. I mean, currently the budget, if it's approved, it's at $600,000. I'm sure they can find $11,000 somewheres in a line item within $600,000. So that would be my position.
Mr. Weil, I see you're running with your pen over there. Come.
That I am. See, on their budget was 11,710. My math is correct. About what you said too, right?
Yes.
And this.
So my motion would reduce it by about 43,000, I guess. 40, yeah.
question for our clerk. Does this have to pass unanimously also?
Yep, all four of you will have to vote in favor.
Chairman, I still have many questions. I don't want it to cause a problem, but I don't want to vote no. But I'd like more time to consider. Which would be a tabling.
I'm prepared to vote today. I mean, you're talking about $11,000. I think the responsible action is to take that budget and find $11,000 rather than appropriate an additional $11,000 on the personnel. I'm sure that if I sat down there and spent some time, I could find that $11,000 in that budget. But I'm ready to take action today. I can't support an increase this calendar year. And I can't support a 3-year agreement.
You can't, and you can't.
I won't.
All right,
I
but,
think we're in agreement about the 1-year agreement.
yes, okay, go ahead, wait.
No, I was just going to remind the committee, thank you, Mr. Chairman, that if you tabled it, it won't come up until January unless you're willing to call a special meeting for that, but you'd have to do that before the board meeting if you wanted to vote on it this year. So if you don't pass this on to the board, then they start without a budget probably in January.
And if I can echo that, it's very important to have them in place to do this business. Which is why we put this into a special meeting today. And I respect what you're saying, Supervisor Wild. But we're sort of at the nth hour and not having that contract in place puts a lot of things in jeopardy, and I don't want to have that happen.
And in response, not specifically to you, but that's one of the ways we work around here, right? It's the last minute, have to make a
Yeah,
decision.
we just got this today.
So
It's up to
I never like those,
Yes.
right? And I do appreciate the work that they've done over the years. Truly do. I don't want to cause the issue with not allowing them going forward. So I guess if I have to make a decision today, I would be the 600,000. Try to find a way to find 11,000 members. So I agree with Supervisor Bowman.
All right, so that's the way you feel, 600,000, leave it flat. And during the year, we might be able to come up with something different, you know.
motion.
Well, we didn't have a motion yet.
I made a motion for 611,710.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's right.
I don't think it was a second.
Second.
And there was no second on it.
But it doesn't require a second.
Okay, so you want to vote on that first? Okay. A motion for 611,000 first,
710.
710.
Didn't get that. Can't hear you.
611,710.
I want to roll call, you want to just, all right, we'll start with you. You're voting for your own resolution. How about you?
No,
No?
No.
No, I gotta say no too. So. So now we go back to 600.
put a motion forward to engage into a 1-year agreement with Lake George CVB at the funding level of 2023, which was $600,000.
Can we get a second?
Second,
Okay. All right, we'll have a vote on that. Chelsea?
No,
No,
Yes.
yes,
yes.
and I'll be a yes.
That fails.
That fails. Well, we have to do something. I mean, we can't as I said, we can't let it go by that they have no budget. So is there a compromise we can come up with?
could we offer a short-term extension to at least get us into the first quarter?
Chairman, if
Oh,
the
that's a
supervisor,
maternity thing.
if the supervisor is recommending a continuing resolution on budget funding for maybe 3 months or 6 months, that we can just do a contract that would be a 3-month or a 6-month contract. Obviously, that's more work, but definitely put some funding in place to start the new year.
Well, I would agree with something like that. Say,
I don't think you want to do an addendum because I don't think there's any resolution authority for an addendum. So it would have to be a clean resolution. Basically, you're just doing a shorter term than 1 year contract.
Offer resolution for a 3-month continuing the resolution will give us time to regroup and see what may be coming into the next 30 to 60 days.
so we're leaving it at 600 for 3 to 6 months, whichever you decide.
3 months.
3 months, then we can,
Well, it's going to be, I don't even know how you do that so that it works for the CVB because I don't know what their cash flow requirements are. Right? So how much is the contract worth for the shorter time? You can't, I don't think doing, just from a legal perspective, it's not like you can just do a quarter of that funding for 3 months. Because
They have contracts in place.
there's all kinds of obligations and requirements that flow over.
We can't operate with a 3-month contract. Sorry to intervene, but we have employees to pay. We have contracts that have been committed to. I mean, it's impossible for us to function on a 3-month contract.
But from a legal perspective, the goal is now to put something in place because right now there's nothing in place for January 1st after that last vote.
Why didn't the resolution pass? What was the
You
reason?
have to, because of the number of persons, you have to have, and actually, if you wouldn't mind. and I-
So you have to have 8 people to have a quorum of committee, and in order for it to pass, you have to have a quorum of votes in favor. So this is a 7-member committee. You require 4 votes in favor for everything to pass. So there are only 4 committee members here. Everyone has to vote unanimous, and that did not happen on either motion.
Who voted against? I'm sorry. I missed.
On the first motion for the 611,000, only Mr. Drossy voted in favor, everyone else voted against. And then the second motion for 600,000, everyone voted for it aside from Mr. Drossy who voted against.
Okay, but you wanted the 611, you wanted more. I mean, we need a budget. I mean, if it means 600,000 to get a year, we should do that. I mean, we can't function on 3 months. I don't want to give up any of it, but I mean, I'm just saying 3 months just doesn't work. I mean, to be honest with you.
Well, there must be some amount for a 3-month continuing resolution that would work. I don't know what that is. I mean, I don't think anybody's saying at the end of 3 months, it's going to be the end of it, but.
But it can be as well.
can be, yeah, you have to do the whole
Yes,
thing.
it can be, and we have contracts in place and I don't, that would, I don't know. I don't know how that would work, honestly. I mean, I appreciate you wanting to get us more money. I get that, but I mean, if this is gonna fail and we gotta go to 3 months. We give up the 11, right? I mean, if that's.
Oh, well, that's right.
I mean, I don't here, right? I mean, we have to keep our people employed. I mean, we have to.
Yeah.
Mm.
And unfortunately, we have 3 people not here. And that's what makes it hard too, when you
Yeah,
get down to.
No, but we're penalized for that. It sounds like.
You'll withdraw your,
I could change my vote if that's acceptable, if the impacts on the and the affected folks are here. Obviously, I agree with the consensus for 1 year, and I can then relent and agree to the 600,000.
okay,
Well, I guess from the parliamentarian, we have to have a substantial modification to the
Well,
motion.
Right.
Again.
Typically, that's it, but if you have no one who's opposing that,
right,
you're the chair, you could allow it.
okay, so we'll allow it,
You're gonna need to get a motion, a
But-
second revote. 'cause the
right.
other motion-
We'll have, all right, so I need a motion to go ahead with 6.
I'll put the
And a
motion
second.
forward.
Okay, so now I call the roll. All right, are you all in favor? Aye. All right, it passes. Thank you, gents. All right, there's no discussions, no referrals. Privilege to the floor with anyone? Okay, a motion to adjourn.
I'll put the motion forward.
The Diamond, Mr. Rossi, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, we're passed.